Well, I grew up here in Indianapolis in the public school system. Attended Shortridge High School, and later on in my life I attended Indiana University downtown here. Originally, when I first got into law enforcement, the times that I attend college off and on during my career, I ended up working in the Chevrolet body plant at that particular time, and from there I went to the Marion County Sheriff's Department. I had the distinction of being the first African American to patrol sheriff district in history since 1822, and it was quite an experience to be out in the first one out in the patrol in the district. A little bit before that, when I was in the Navy, I was on the Navy Shore Patrol for a while. I had a touch of it back then. And I elected to go into the Navy, I guess because my dad was a World War II veteran in the Navy, and I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I was in the growing up process at that particular time, trying to find my way in life, and it gave me a chance to get on my own to see what's out there for me. And I think that, and then the desire that I think that young folk should serve their nation in the military was one of the wisest things that I did at the particular time. I really wasn't that interested in running for public office. When I retired as a United States Marshal, I served under two presidents. Between that, I became when they created a job with the Federal Protective Service, GSA, it was the responsibility of having charge of all of the security for those courthouses, federal buildings. And all the uniform officers and all worked for me. The detectives worked for me. So it was a big responsibility, and it gave me an opportunity to see what's needed in the security arena and dealing with people. I learned something at a very young age. My father told me when I raised my hand and took that oath as a deputy sheriff that you have to enforce the law, regardless of whom it is and what it's about. And he said, even including myself. And that's something that stuck with me. And people ask me, well, how can you do what you do? And I said, from that day when I raised my hand, if I couldn't follow the law and do what it says, then I don't need to be in that position. But I've always felt that whatever you do, you don't have to take a jackhammer and do something that you can take a screwdriver and get the same results. So I learned how to deal with these things, and that all of that brings me up to the point when I retired as United States Marshal. People kept after me about running for sheriff, from which I came to that department. And you know, they said, well, they never had an African American there. They said, well, Mike, and I'd like to make it clear that I didn't run to be the first African American. I ran to do as much as I could as an American. And it just so happened that I happened to be an African American, in which I grew up doing segregation in this city. I knew about all of the color, the white, the this, and so forth. But still, it didn't distract me from having the desire to live and work in a better community. The thing that concerned me most about politics is, and I said very often, people that are elected need to leave the donkey and the elephant outside the door and sit down to the table and do what the people elected them for. And then when that time came, and I kept telling people, no, I don't want to run for sheriff and sheriff. They kept on to the point where I said, well, here's an opportunity. Maybe I can do something for my community and make it better. Again, in the community that you live in, you should have concern about what happens in that community. And if you're an adult and you have children, you need to make sure that the environment that is being planned and the laws that are being passed are going to be those in the best interest of your children and the community in which you live in. And I do a lot with children. I mean, I always call them my little flowers anytime that I would talk to groups of little kids. You know, they're my little flowers. You look at them and they're all different colors, all different shades, all different sizes. And the one thing that I had dedicated my career was to look out for these little flowers. And we need more of that. We need gardeners is what I call them. Gardeners are people that keep the weeds away from these little flowers and give them an opportunity to grow up and bloom and be constructive citizens. Most citizens are the first ones that be, a lot of them complain, well, they passed this, where were you? Did you go to any of the meetings? Did you go to any of the hearings? Have you been paying attention to what's going on? Have you contacted your representative? So, I mean, we need to get more involved, and I think it all comes down to what's been said over and over. It takes a village to raise a child. And the frustration that I have now, and having come through what I have been through as an African American, coming up when I did, and people, the things that I did, I look at some of these kids today and I'm saying, you don't know what it took me to get where I went. And see, I have to be very truthful about this. I never forgot and tried to imagine what people went through before me. Not just African Americans, but people in this country in general, regardless of where they came from. And I think today that these young folk, they don't know what the struggle has been about. And I think it's time that they pay attention, because they're the ones that are going to be running this country, this nation, and this world in the future. I always talked about the 5 P's. And the 5 P's are proper planning prevents poor performance. Proper planning prevents poor performance. To prepare yourself for what you want in the future. And most of all, you gotta stop and think. I started a program called Stop and Think. For that split second that you don't stop and think could affect you and others for the rest of your life. That's what I'd have to say to them. Having come up in the era that I came up in and having seen a lot of things have changed. We're not where we need to be yet. We've got to, people always talk about, well, in the good old days, this and that and so forth. We need to go back to the basics of a lot of things. Now, I've seen the state change a lot, but I'm getting a little concerned about what's happening now. You've got so many issues that are out there, and it all comes back again to people not working together and do what's best for the state and the community in which we live in, leaving politics out of it. Well, I think that what I see for the future of this state, we've got good people like Senator Donnelly, who is focused, who understands all of these things that I've sat here and talked to you about. And I'm just proud of the fact that we have good people like him. We need more people like Senator Donnelly to lead us.